Hello everyone. I hope everyone's well at home. Tonight, I shall introduce myself first. My name is Avril Hepner and I'm from BDA Scotland. And tonight's edition of BSL Blethers will be addressing the topic of DNA, particularly in relation to, these kind of family tree searches and finding out your DNA history. So we want to look at that. But obviously, first of all, I want to add the disclaimer that we are not experts, we're not researchers. We're just talking about this in a casual basis, finding out a little bit more about this topic in a general way. We are not qualified on this subject, but we do have a keen enthusiast who will be joining us tonight to talk about their journey. They've had a lot of experience of being involved and looking at this kind of information and indeed training others on how to do it. So I hope you'll enjoy this evening's session. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll read through them and we'll pass those on to our guest. But I'd like to introduce you to this person first of all. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming to join us here this evening. But perhaps you could introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi there, Avril. My name is Jemima Boy. That's my sign name. I'm originally from the east side of England. Now I've moved to Bristol.
Well, thanks for coming tonight, Jemima. And obviously we've got a lot of questions for you about this topic, DNA, and this kind of family heritage research that people are getting interested in. But first of all, tell us what is this DNA research all about? What is it?
What a question, Avril. It's a really hard question to answer because it's such a big subject. It's not straightforward. It's not a simple thing just to decide, or just to define DNA. But it basically means it's your genetics, it's your genetic makeup, it's what each individual has within their body. You can't remove your DNA. You're born with it. It's absolute. So it's not really like your blood. It's basically DNA gives the instructions to tell everything in your body what to do. So it's like the instruction manual of your body. But your DNA is really useful because it helps you trace your family tree, your generations previous to you, because that DNA gets passed on from one generation to another. So, you can have tests and you can actually see parts of your mother and father's DNA within yours.
So you get DNA passed on from both parents, your mother and your father, and that passes into you, and then you pass it on to your descendants. I see. So this kind of DNA search seems to have become really popular recently. I guess because technology allows it. We're all living digital lives, and that information is more accessible and available for us to get hold of. But I guess it's quite complex as well, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right.
All right. So how did you get involved? How did you get interested in DNA? I know you've given talks on this subject, but how did you get involved?
Well, really, it started a long time ago, probably early 80s. My father had been asked someone in locally to do sort of his tree, the family tree of the name Lambert. We wanted to know where it came from, where it originally came from. And this man, it was a friend of my father's at the end, started doing the research. And I was at school and I didn't really know much about what was going on. But when I was coming from a school, my dad had all this paper lying about with these kind of trees information. And I was absolutely bowled over with it. I thought this was fantastic that we could get all of this information. We could collect this information on our ancestors. And that's how I started.
So that was the sort of it. And when you left school, did you continue with that interest?
Well, I was going through school, so no, not at that time, really.
And you weren't taught about DNA at school, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, DNA wasn't the kind of hot topic that is just now. So it was later on that I really started my proper research. But really, the tools for DNA have only just started being available to us recently.
And when you were back at school, you know, I mean, I remember doing family trees back at school in my day, and it was all just about asking for photographs and connecting them with lines, you know, it was very limited.
Yeah, I can remember that too. We were playing at it, if you like, and we were sort of drawing pictures of mum and dad, but we weren't getting information about when they were born, when did they get married, and these are all really important dates, you know, and people can be born in different places. We didn't do that at school. It was just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if they do this kind of DNA stuff at school in more depth these days.
I'm not sure. I don't really think so. I think maybe they'll maybe do a project at school and maybe ask their parents to help out in a kind of family tree, maybe following a set of questions to make that tree. But I don't think
Yeah.
DNA in schools quite there yet.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe research it at home. Why do you think it is important to get into all of this kind of DNA history? What's important about it?
Well, a lot of people do research online. In the past, it was like paperwork, and they hit a brick wall and they couldn't get any further than a certain year. And maybe the information wasn't there originally, and they became stuck. But the best way we've found now is going through your DNA. So we're not just relying on just the record keeping. So you can find out that, you know, maybe someone's your cousin, or, you know, usually it's distant cousins that you can connect with. Uh, you know, I know like my first cousin. I mean, I know these people, maybe even second cousins, but your fourth, fifth cousin are difficult, but they're the people you can pick up in DNA. And it's important to get that information because we have the capability now to access that information. In the past, when you were doing research, you really were stuck because if the paper work trail ended, then that was it finished. Now we have this new tool.
So that helps. You know, if you've got missing members of your family, you know, or if someone's passed away and you didn't know very much about that particular relative or ancestor, you can find out more about them.
There is different ways to research, and you're absolutely right, Avril. You can find out lots of information. For example, I have a friend, and a friend and their sister, both their mother, they have one brother, but they didn't have a brother. So they asked the uncle to research because we wanted the male Y gene, uh, because he didn't have the fathers, but we needed it from the uncle because there's different types. Because the male gene, the Y gene, passes down every male. And when the uncle agreed, we got that information. And that also kind of confirms that there's a blood relative there.
So it's important. And I suppose, you know, you see these different programs, don't you, on TV these
Yeah,
days,
yeah,
Long Lost
loads.
Family and Know Who You Are and Who Do You Think You Are? That's right. And what's the other one? Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, what is the other one? Oh, DNA Family Secrets. That's the other one. That's fabulous. Now, each of those programs have their own styles. They're all lovely in their own way, but they won't work for everyone. You know, it's the idea is that one way of doing it will work for you, and you could be successful. And it could be that when the more family members you get in, the more parts of the jigsaw puzzle you have. I mean, I don't have any brothers. I'm an only child. So if you've got brothers and sisters, please test your brothers to make sure you've got that Y and the X genes. You've got the mitochondrial from the mother and the Y gene come from the father. That
Right.
all
Okay.
helps the
So
jigsaw.
it's a team effort, right? So I mean, if you're looking at your own DNA, it's worth contacting other people in your family and giving everyone the opportunity to kind of look into it at the same time, because that way you're going to catch more information.
Yeah, because that the other thing about it is people assume that brothers and sisters have exactly the same DNA given from their parents, but that's not true. I mean, they all receive,
Oh,
yes,
really?
50%. Yeah, they all receive 50% from their mother and father. But even if we had five siblings, it potentially could be that they all receive different parts of the DNA for their father. They don't all get the same information. So that's why when we collect all of that information together, we're getting all parts of the DNA.
So, Jemima, I think what you're saying is that if we were in the same family, your DNA and my DNA wouldn't be exactly the same. They'd be different, right?
You're absolutely right. They would be different. There'll be certain percentages that will match, but you won't get 100%. I mean,
Oh,
we could
gosh.
be third cousins and only have a very small amount of CMs that are in our DNA. So it depends where you are in your branch. So what you want to do is want to try and make sure you've got everybody on the same line.
Okay. So it's not always 100%. There are variations, there are differences.
I mean, it could be, yeah, Avril. Let's say you and I were cousins, but we know we are actually cousins. We know who our parents are. We share the same grandparents, but our DNA has no match. But if I had a brother, you DNA, my brother could match more. That's why it's more complicated than straightforward. So you can't just rely on just your DNA. You need everyone else around you to fill in the blanks.
Okay, and it's important to know that those matches are not 100%. Okay, I've seen lots of people kind of buying these tests. So I think the first thing I want to ask you is, how do you go about that? What's the best way to start? Well, let's have a look at a slide first. Okay, so tell us about that table that we've just seen there, Jemima.
Now, as you could see, each one of them, those that I've shown you, there's 5 there, are all different companies, and they all offer to test your DNA. All have
Okay.
different prices and all have different styles, and the way that the collection method is done. And it's up to you to decide in your preference. For example, ancestry.co.uk, that's kind of the biggest kind of database that people have been testing to. They've been going there and doing their tests, and the other ones have got a smaller sort of, if you like, population of people using it.
Okay.
My advice is really you testing the big one first. Gather that information, download your DNA, and you can do that, and then you can upload it to the other organizations for free.
Oh, can you? Can you? Oh,
Yeah, you can, because it could be that maybe you've got a long lost brother and sister out there that you don't know about, but they're not on Ancestry, but they could be registered on another site. So,
I
and
see.
then when you go in there, you realize you match them. So there is many databases, so that's why I would advise to do that.
Okay, so you first have to join, and then you join the other ones because you might find more connections in the other sites and more matches. Can we just go back a little bit though, Jemima? There were all of those options for websites that we saw. What's the cost of joining that we're looking at here, just roughly?
One of the websites has a subscription method for you doing your research, so that's a different price that's separate from the DNA. That's different again. I would say most come from about £50 to £100. It does vary. And usually £79 seems to be a good average price. But look out for sales like the Black Friday or Easter or things like that. Sometimes they have one-off sales, and it's worth waiting for them to actually catch a bargain. That would be my best advice.
Okay, so you buy that, and you mentioned there's a subscription system. How does that work? What are you doing
Okay.
there?
Well, a subscription, you don't have to have it. But a subscription means that you can actually do more of the research. So if you want to do a lot of research, so you get access to censuses, parish records, etc. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you're just looking for your information, then basic information, that's fine. But certainly, I would say if you want to do a lot more detailed information, then you need the subscription to get access to those full databases of other sites as well.
I see.
So, and as I said, you can pay for the DNA just on its own and get your DNA results.
Okay, so that's how it works. We've got a comment that's just come in from Anne. If we could put that comment up on the screen for Jemima. And for our viewers at home, let's just bear with us, folks, while we get that on screen for you. And there you go. Anne says she got hers for free on offer. Lovely.
How lucky are you? And thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, so then we've talked about how you pay. You're saying it's roughly 75 to £100, something like that. And then how long does it take for you to receive your kit?
Well, to be honest, it depends where you are and which country you're in. I mean, it takes roughly between 2 and 4 weeks. I mean, although we've got ancestry.co.uk, the country's actually based in America. So you have a box.
I think
You've got a
we've
picture?
got a photograph of that, so bear with us. So what's inside the box there, Jemima?
Well, again, it depends which website you go to. Some have a collection method of a cheek swab. Others are you spit into a tube. So you receive your package, you open it up, and the first thing you must do is record your number.
So like a reference number.
Absolutely. This is your unique number that will be transferred to the website. So, you won't receive your results without that. Actually happened to a friend of mine. She was waiting for ages and she realised she'd forgot to put her number in.
Right.
So how would they know it's you? So that's a tip for everyone.
So the first thing to do is get your box, put that reference number into the website, and that's you set up as an account.
Yep. That's as soon as you do that and you do your swab or your spit, you send it away and then they're able to match that data with you. Now, the box itself, it's got very clear instructions. It shows you what to do. There's one with a cotton wool swab that you will do in your cheek, inside your cheek, and then you put that in the container and seal it, and that's it. Back in the box and post it.
Okay, so some have these swabs, but some are spit. You spit in a tube, you said.
Yeah, it's a very similar procedure, just that you spit and then post it away in the box.
And send it off. Yeah. And how long are you waiting then?
It usually is about 6 weeks,
6
for
weeks.
the spit one. But they do a proper sort of genetic dig down, if you like, a discovery. It's a bit like the telly. You'll see it in the telly. It takes a wee bit longer.
And how did they let you know the results? They text you, or is it email, or how does it work?
Well, you'll have set an account up with them, so they'll email you through your account, but you just check in all the time to see if you got it.
Right, so you keep an eye on that.
Yeah. And what you've got that email there, so it's not as if it's going to go to your junk mail or anything. And as soon as you've got it, you go on the website and you open up to find everything about yourself.
Interesting. And that's when it all starts, really, because you see the results there. And then, well, what do the results look like, actually? I think we've got a photo of yours, haven't we, Jemima? Let's have a look. Do we have that? Should come up any second now. I'm just waiting for that. Here it comes. Sorry for the delay, folks. Okay, so can you tell us what these three things are?
Okay, when you order your DNA, they will do an autosomal test, and basically that is all your family. That's your mother, father, your grandparents, both sides of your DNA. So they're doing a kind of full DNA of you from both sides of the family, and they will break that down. That's called autosomal. Ancestry will do that, and they will look at that. Most websites will alter autosomal DNA tests. And if you want a Y DNA and a mitochondrial DNA, you have to ask that specially.
Hang on a second. Tell me what Y DNA is.
Okay. In simplest terms, Y refers to the males in your family, and the MT is short for mitochondrial, and that refers to the females in the family. So all the males in one family will have this Y gene passing down, and all the females will have this mitochondrial DNA. So it's mothers passed on to daughter, daughter passed on to daughter, and the same as father to son to son.
And so you have to ask, do you, or do you ask for all of them at the same time?
They're very specific. Most will do autosomal DNA tests. That's normal. But if you want to go in at that deeper line, then you would have to do that very specifically. It's very popular actually to do
So
the
offered a
Y
choice.
line,
Okay.
because a
Oh,
lot
why
of
is that?
people, yeah, because they maybe don't know who their father is.
Ah, true.
And the thing is that it's always passed from father to son. So it's an easy way to find who your father is, because you could have been born and never knew who your father was, and maybe you didn't have that surname.
So some people will choose, if they want to know who their father is, they're going to focus in on that Y test. If you want to know who your mother is, or find out about your mother's side of the family, you're going to focus in on the MT. And if you want to know about everything, you're going to go for that autosomal one. So the autosome, I'm a bit confused because the autosomal gives you everything. So if you've got that, why would you pay again for the MT one or the Y one?
Well, Avril, if the first time you're doing a DNA, I would say you want the autosomal one, definitely. But later on, if you want to know something very specific, maybe on your male line of your family, then it's worth getting the Y gene done.
Oh, and you have
And
to buy that again, do you?
you pay a
Okay.
wee bit more, and they say as a mitochondrial, it's a bit more expensive, but it's very specific tests.
Oh, so more
Like,
detail.
so
Mm.
for me, the Y test is really important because I don't have any brothers. So I want to know about my male line. So I asked my father. Luckily, I managed to get my father's DNA before he passed, or I would be stuck in the Y line.
Okay.
So, that's why I say to people now, look at the males in your family. So your brothers or your fathers or uncles or cousins, ask them now to get that Y gene, because it's the same gene that's passed down.
Well,
And
that's
that's really,
interesting.
so again, autosomal is just generally interested in everything. Y male and mitochondrial's female.
Okay, let's have a look at another picture at this point. So that's exactly what you're just saying, isn't it?
Yeah, Avril, you can see clearly through the picture that on the blue, the males pass down from one generation to the next, and the same way in the female in the red, and the autosomal's in the middle. So I would suggest doing the autosomal first, and that'll give you lots of information. But if you're looking further down the line to maybe get some specific information on the female or the male line, then get another test.
Oh, thank you. That's really useful, so that we now know what, depending on what we're looking for, we know which test to ask for. That's really helpful. Thank you, Jemima. So I'm wondering, if I wanted to join one, I'd get my results and then I would put those kind of on the website somewhere. I've already got an account on the website by now, right? So I look on the website, and you mentioned that through that you might be able to download some more information. What are you downloading there?
Okay, Avril, we need to go back a wee bit. So I've received my email results of my DNA. So you've got all of this information. One of the ways that you can do this is that they will tell you your ethnicity of, where your country, where your bloodline's from. I've got a picture, Avril, if you could show it.
Okay, let me just find that for you. The one with the countries on, is that Jemima? Yeah,
Yeah, the
okay.
map. Yeah. That's the one. So this shows you where my DNA is mapped to, which areas. So I'm 69% English. So I'm a proper English person, and I'm proud of that. But I've got a little bit of Welsh and a bit of Scots as well. Now, I know about the Welsh history. That's from my mother's side, I definitely, but where the Scottish comes from, I don't know. So I'm curious about that. So that's something that I need to do a wee bit more research. I think it potentially is my father's side because because when it comes to the DNA, I can see the split and where they come from. So my father, I know, is the Scottish side, and my mother doesn't have that. So I think that's quite interesting. So I'm going to research more to find out more about my Scottish heritage.
Right, so it must be from him. So then you download, what is it that you've got in your hand once you've downloaded this information?
Yep, sorry, Avro, absolutely. I was keen for you to see the picture. So it could be that once you get the information, you want to do a wee bit more digging. Ancestry, as I said, is the biggest database, and lots of people use that. And you might get a few matches, you might get more matches. You'll get cousins, and there'll be people there missing. There might be someone that's had a test in ancestry. Maybe they haven't. They might have went to another DNA database. So that's why I suggest download your DNA, and then once you've got that, you have it in a file. It's all encrypted, so don't worry about it. Uh, so there's no one can, technically in and hack it. It's got all of your information. It's encrypted.
Okay,
Don't open it. Just save it, and then
download
have
it.
a look at, say, my history for talking's sake, and see if they will allow you to upload your DNA. Some say no, some say yes, but I know that most of the other ones accept it, but Ancestry don't accept other ones uploading to theirs. Interesting.
Okay, so
So,
then you just upload it to the new
yep,
site.
it
Okay,
takes usually a few hours because it's to all of the websites have their own computer programming and how they analyze the results and how they portray them as well. Sometimes to give you in picture form, maps, different ways of analyzing the statistical information. So it's definitely worth uploading to as many as possible and looking at the results from then. So it could be that you don't have a near relative in ancestry, but you end up finding one in one of the other ones.
okay. So then you've got those family results and everything, but I know that sometimes people are disappointed that they can't find, they're hopeful to find a match and then they don't find one.
Yeah, you're right. It's because you don't know if the person that you're looking for is actually tested. If they haven't
Ah,
tested,
so
then you're
then,
never going to find them.
okay, so it's not always going to yield a result. You could be disappointed if that person isn't also online. Okay.
Yeah, it happened to me, Avril, but 5 or 6 years ago. My father had told me that I had a half brother, and I was absolutely shocked. Half brother, I had no idea. You know, it was a baby before I was born, and I was absolutely shocked. But at the same time, I was so excited because I was doing this research. I thought this is fantastic. My mother never told me a thing. And it was a couple of years later, and I was still looking for that person. I knew it was a boy. I knew roughly the name. It was Sebastian, but we knew the area. I knew roughly, the information. My father couldn't remember everything because my mother only told him once a way back in the day. So this is his memories from that conversation. And as I said before, my mother would
He's been
discuss it.
carrying that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't get the full picture. So I searched everywhere and I really was struggling. And then I got my DNA, put it in Ancestry, then uploaded it to the other DNAs and other DNA website rather, and could not find them at all. So I actually then went to a company and asked them to find them. So they did it through the old-fashioned paperwork, and they found them through that way.
So sometimes, if one method doesn't work, you have to try a number of other ways. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And they did the contact with him for me, and it found out that he never ever wanted to put his DNA on there on the database. So just remember, everybody won't be comfortable with it, and there's not 100% guarantees.
So manage your expectations if at first you don't succeed and all that. Okay. So you've been looking, you know, like you said, there are lots of these programs on television, Long Lost Family and all those kinds of things. Has anything like that happened to you?
I did contact Long Lost Family about my half brother, and they asked me if I was happy to be on TV. And I said, well, yeah, if I have to. Anyway, they did the research. I couldn't do the research when they were researching. I had to stop my research. That you have to pass that on to
Just
this
pause.
person.
Mm.
Yeah. So they continued with the research, found him, let him know, and then let me know and asked him if he wanted to be in the TV, and he said no. And if I'm honest, there's a part of me that was quietly relieved. He's a very quiet person, quite shy, and didn't like that kind of attention.
But you have actually been in touch with some long lost family, haven't you? How amazing. I mean, was it great to sort of see them or, I mean, how fantastic to get those results. I mean, I suppose really in some ways though, Jemima, these DNA stories could be lovely and emotional, or they could be kind of disappointing or quite traumatic, really.
Oh, Avril, yeah, it's really emotional, and you really need to try and prepare for it. Don't just think it'll be fine. As you said, manage your expectations. There's also the worry, do they want to see me or not, even after you find out who they are or where they are? We haven't even met yet, me and my brother, half brother. We've known about each other for 5 years, and he just is not interested in the family history, and that's his choice. And I have to respect that. I just hope one day he'll change his mind, and we have to have patience. So it's important that you don't have these high expectations.
Yeah, take it one step at a time, I suppose. It's very interesting, isn't it? I just want to go back to something else. We've got another slide. If I can just show that now. I want to take you back to this. So, well, tell us about it. Yeah, go ahead, Jemima.
Well, you could see straight away that when I got the results, that's the first thing that I sort of build up. My father had already put his DNA in, so that's why we've got this high. You see the CM centimorgans, and I'll finger spell it for everyone out there. So it's centimorgans for short. We just sign CM. Now, what that means is that's just a number, a scientific number. Don't worry about it. But what it means in relation to DNA, the higher the number you have, the more of a DNA link you've got to
Oh,
that
okay, so
person.
the higher the number, the sort of closer you are in terms of like, sort of like your father or something like that. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can see that I've got my father. If you look at the numbers again, have a wee look, and you can see what I'm talking about.
Oh, we can see that now. Hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Now, the first person up there was my father. The next, there was two people there. You could see that there was my cousin and then Joshua. And you see there was 65, same as in 45. Now, if you look at that, the number, it's Josh is the son of my first cousin, so that's why they're first cousin once removed. So even although that's my cousin's son, we still share some DNA. And sometimes if you get a high number, even although you're further down the line, it just still means that you share that number of DNA. I mean, I can go back to if you were like, if it was your great 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 grandmother, you could share some DNA with a cousin as well.
So the further away from you they are, the lower the number, the closer, the higher the number. That's fantastic. So let's have a look a little bit more about into your family and your results. Tell us about
Okay.
this. What are we seeing here?
Well, what's happening is this is a part of the feature in Ancestry. I'm not sure if the other websites or the other databases have that, but this is Ancestry's one. And what they do is they look at the matches that you've got in your DNA. So you might get your match to a second cousin. So you would click on your name, and then this person would come up as being a potential relative on this family tree. So you could see that my father's line or my great great grandfather's line, these were all the people who were related to my great great grandfather.
So when you click on them, it shows you the connection.
Absolutely, Avril. That's what you do. So what we're showing is we're showing that all of these cousins, 3 or 4 generations below the person are all related. And when you click them together, that brings it all up to the main person, which you can see
Well,
now.
let's have a look at this one now. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Now, all the ones that are greyed out, they're people that are related to me and cousins through different branches of the family tree. And it's so interesting. I mean, 1 or 2 people I knew, but the others I had no clue because they were from my mother's side and they'd lost touch, and the Welsh, the Matthews are from Wales. Someone had went to America and lost contact, so it was really fascinating to see those names coming up again.
So when you get all of those names, have you contacted those people, or what would you do from there?
Well, I suppose it depends on individuals. I'm at the stage where I'm really just collecting information. I'm looking to collate my family tree. I'm not looking to contact people and become friends, if you like. I'm happy for them to contact me and share information. I'm just looking to see how my family tree looks.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, really, and you could select some people that you might want to get in touch with. Okay, let's go back again. At the beginning, you said that before you posted the swab and the spit and everything. I want to have a look at the first picture. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, Avril, this is my handwriting one. This is before we did the DNA test.
So that looks pretty old.
Yeah, it was the 80s. Remember, I told you my father had asked a friend to do some research. He wanted to know where the Lambert name came from. So it was there was 3 villages that the name had came from. So he'd give us this information. But at that time, as I told you, I was at school. So I didn't really have the ability to take that information anywhere at that time. But when I moved to Bristol, I bumped into an old friend again, and they'd already done their history. And I thought, oh, I think it's about time I start mine. I'm in Bristol now. Why not start? So I asked them to get that information for me, and that's really where it all began. Maybe about 1996 or the late 90s, early 2000s, and then I started to collect the data. I wanted to know the genealogy. I was online trying to get as much information as possible.
So that is really beautiful old parish records, aren't they? Really traditional kind of style of collecting that information, that fabulous copperplate handwriting. Isn't that gorgeous? Wow. Well done. And so how old is that stuff?
Well, just to let you know, that's not my handwriting. That's my father's handwriting, you know. Uh, at that time, that was my father's proper writing. So that's the original from the time. It's beautiful and very precious.
That's beautiful. It is indeed. And those kinds of records, those old records, are really useful actually when you're helping, even now, even though we've got DNA searching.
Yeah, absolutely, Avro. Your family have got so much resources for you. They've got birth certificates, death certificates. They've got loads of things. I remember my mother had a ton of information that I got after she died. So I've got original, information there, the original stamps, they don't do things like that anymore, with
Wow.
everything sort of digital. So please ask your family, find about the stories, find about people they knew. DNA only works if you have the name and the paperwork and the people to go on by. Yeah, if you don't do the paper research, you're never going to find out who the person is. The DNA only tells you you're linked. Yeah.
Ah, okay, and that's it. Yeah.
So what you're looking for is you're looking for more information as well, just to make sure that you're matching these people.
So you
So
need to do some preparation work beforehand, really.
yeah, absolutely. It could be that you and I were cousins, but I didn't have your name. So people sometimes don't put their name up on in DNA. So you've got a cousin, but you don't know their name because they don't want to go public. So you still have to go and do the paperwork. So all the DNA gives you is a link to mother, father's side, and where you're from.
Okay, so you have to fill in the gaps, really. And sometimes the results, like we said earlier, that you could be disappointed by the results, or you could be disappointed by the country that you find, in your DNA history. Maybe you think of yourself as really Scottish, and there's no Scotland in your DNA map, and so this could be really, yeah, it could be interesting for people, couldn't it?
Yeah, Avro. The ethnicity part of it is not completely 100% reliable because it gets
Oh,
updated
really?
all the time. It's not something that you should ignore. You look at it and but what it it could be maybe 20% more and it could change because depending the number of people who registered as well. So in my mother's side, my mother had a lot of percentage of Welsh in her, but I've only got a tiny bit in mine. My father's Scottish, but we're not aware of that at all. So maybe I've got more Scottish in me than I know. I mean, so don't rely on that. It's good to help you to research the areas and where your family have came from, and it's there as a tool just to pique your interest as well. But it will keep
Uh,
changing.
just drawn up from the matches. And if you if you've got a swab and it comes up really high percent Italian, and then you do another swab at another website and it's going to give you a different geography, which would you trust?
Well, the thing is, they're not all using the same formulas for measuring. You know, uh, at the moment, or rather in the past, they had completely different ways of, as I said before, scientifically analysing this data. But there seems to be talk that they're now looking at trying to get a similar model, and also science
How are they
is
doing it?
improving. So that'll help us as well and make it more clear for everyone. Uh,
So
there
it's
have been a lot
improving
of
all the time.
improvements. Yeah, and I think they really want to standardise it, but it's not there yet.
Okay. Um, so you've got the results of your DNA. Is it easy to kind of read the information it throws at you? I'm thinking of deaf people trying to follow these sites. Is it very jargony, or is it quite visual? How's it presented?
A bit of both. Ancestry, the website, is really good because they show you lots of maps. It's very pictorial, and the way that they show you the tree is very, very visual. So it's very
Oh,
easy
that's
to
good.
see where you fit. I'm trying to give you an example. Like, I've got so much percentage of Germanic, but the word is Germanic. Doesn't mean I'm German. It means Germanic, and that's an area. So that could maybe confuse some people, but it's
Mm.
nothing to worry about. If anybody out there was maybe unsure, I'd be happy to help and explain a wee bit more of the terminology.
So do you think some of these DNA websites should be a bit more sign language accessible? Do you think if there was, video on their websites that gave the general information, do you think that would be useful?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it would be really worth it just to sort of explain generally how you start, and what you do, maybe like, and what the centimorgans mean. I think that would be really good. Uh, I mean, I've not even checked. We might have that information in ASL in America. I haven't checked.
True. I think more and more deaf people, it seems, are going to these websites. So making the information accessible would be useful, so that deaf people know how to interact with the website. That would be
Yeah.
handy. Um, so do you think that this kind of DNA research, you think it's a good thing to do? If I'm thinking of deaf people at home and their well-being, is it an interesting hobby or
Yeah, it's a hobby I've got. I mean, I've been at this for, 25 years. Uh,
wow?
I just want to know what happened to these people in my family. It is addictive. When you start, you really want to know about these individuals, because these individuals, they are part of me. They're who I am. I mean, I've just found out that I knew about the Welsh, but I didn't know about the Scottish. This is fascinating to me. I love the fact that people's names are different, and how did that come about? Some people, have a very common name, and that is something that, you know, it could be difficult to find, but you could find out information about people maybe who went in the army. There may be heroes in your family that you didn't know about. There's lots about agriculture and the farming, because remember the farmers, they're the people who were feeding the country. So I found myself, really interested in where people were born and their journey to where they died. Because I remember, looking at all the different countries and realizing that I'm not full English. I'm made up of all of these different parts, and that's just so fascinating. And then from me, the next generation is slightly different as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
so
see how that
I
could be
love it.
addictive.
It's good for your
Yeah.
well-being. It really is.
So that sounds great because, you might find more family, you might find more connections,
Yep.
and, a nice way of thinking like you're not alone really. You might find more and more and more people out there who are part of your family.
Absolutely. And that's a lovely way of keeping in contact with people, because sometimes people like to just sort of message and just say, "Hi, we're related to each other." As simple as that.
Well, have you had lots of messages like that?
Oh, yeah, loads, loads. You know, uh, Sometimes there's people there that want to sort of take the work that you've done, and there's a kind of code, there's a bit of respect. You can maybe give them so much work or access to, or help them with their tree. I like to help. I really believe in sharing, and I
Give
really
and
do
take.
believe that. And I'm not going to hand over 25 years of work to someone just on a say so.
So some people might have, put this stuff in the DNA, might have found, members of the family, but they might find other deaf members of their family, amongst their second or third cousins. And of course, the deaf world is a very small world. So do you think there's more chance of finding, amongst second and third cousins, other deaf people? Is that happened to you yet?
Well, I was born German measles, so I didn't think there's any deafness in my family. Um,
Okay.
you know, but the thing about the DNA is that, for deafness it's quite fascinating as well. So it could be, where did I get this gene from if you're deaf? So it's worth, investing in trying find out your genetic material. Some people want to know that, if they have that gene, you know, some want to know. I mean, I personally don't. I'm not interested in that. I'm looking at a different way. But, certainly, I think going back to your well-being, it's all about the research, Avril, that helps with the well-being, keeping engaged.
Okay, so I can see that you can get addicted to the research and you do the swab and you do the spit. And can anybody join, or is there an age limit? Do you have to be sort of 14, 16, 18?
Do you know, I'm not sure, Avril. I'm assuming 16, but I don't know that. Uh, I really don't know for sure. But I mean, it could be that if you get your parents' consent, then it could be, maybe there's a child interested in their genealogy. So I think they can potentially get their DNA done as long as it's with the parents' consent. And and the other thing is that there could be that the DNA is you tell them to keep it, it will stay in that company. You can ask them to remove it if you want at any
Oh, can
time. That's your
you?
right.
Oh, it can be
Yeah,
removed.
it's
And that's part of
literally.
GDPR, is it?
Yeah, I've wrote data protection, absolutely. So you have the right to tell them to remove that. And I think that's good for people to understand that you could order your DNA and then get that information, and then you have the right to remove it. And I don't think deaf people are getting that because it's not in BSL, it's in English. So that would be helpful
Right.
for deaf people to understand their full rights.
I'm assuming that consent form is quite heavily English, but you have to fill in a consent form and sign it, do
Yep.
you? Okay, that would be interesting. But as you say, perhaps not accessible. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to find out what the age restrictions are on that and whether children can do it.
Yeah, I mean, my gut's telling me I think it's 16. Yeah. Um, so the thing is that if someone was saying they want to do it for fun, you have to ask yourself what kind of fun it means to that person.
Most of these data things are adults, aren't they? But perhaps there is an opportunity there.
I think it's an adult thing that mostly people as an adult will do.
Okay. And do you think this kind of DNA search would be good to give like a gift, like Mother's Day is coming up or Christmas or something like that, or a birthday? You think that would
Oh,
be a nice gift?
definitely worth it. A lot of my friends do that. What we do is like, I bought for my sister, they've bought for their other friends, and it's lovely just to compare because we're like that. How much have you like compared to daddy than I am, and things like that. But yes, you're absolutely right. Avril, a lot of people are giving DNA tests as gifts now.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. Um, and as you say, you can get addicted to this and do a lot of research and go as far as you want to. How many hours are you kind of spending? Can you do it at any time of day, or tell me
Ooh,
about your habit?
wow. Well, do you remember I showed you a picture of through lines? That's from Ancestry. Now, when I got that through, that's telling me about all my DNA hits that I've had and who they are, and I have to work out where, or they tell me where they are in my tree. So I was just clicking on that to have a look, and I became really interested. I think uh, through lines you have to pay extra for it. It's a wee bit expense, but you have to sort of go through it all and match. I've just not had the time really. Uh, so I feel as if that's a wee bit of a lost opportunity for me. But anyway, it makes it easier if you do through lines because the data bits will match the links for you, and you just have to confirm.
So there are pros and cons here, aren't there? You can either get the quick fix just by clicking, or you can do the deeper paperwork sort of approach and go a bit deeper on what it's showing you.
Absolutely. If what happens in through lines, the ancestry database check for the match, and they then ask you to evaluate it because it might be that they're saying that your great 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 grandfather is this person, and it's not. And you're saying, well, it's not because remember we didn't have the DNA for the great 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 grandfather, and the other cousin might have got it wrong. So that's why
It
you
could
always
happen,
have
I
to double
suppose.
check the paperwork.
It could happen. I've got a bit of an eye on the time, Jemima. We're rapidly running out of it. We're against the clock here. Let me just have a look and see if we've got any questions and comments coming in. I'm just going to ask you, do you have any lovely stories that have emerged from your DNA research? Anything that you could tell us? Any little anecdotes?
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I remember when I put my DNA in, I wanted to know about the process and how it worked. I wasn't really at that time looking for matches. You know, I'd maybe bought, about 6 or 7 years ago, and it just lay there. Or rather, I did it 6 or 7 years ago, and I left it on the site, and I didn't do
And does
anything
it
with
stay
it.
on there? I'm just wondering, Jemima, if you go in and you put that in there and then you go off, does that information stay there? I mean, people might die, people might kind of go off. Where is that all held?
Well, Ancestry themselves, they actually say to you that I must give the information to the person. Like, say, if I was to sort of pass away, they can have the permission to close it down. And also, you should be informing Ancestry to take any of your DNA off. You have that right always. If I'm not here anymore and I don't want that on it, or my family don't want it on it, the family have the right to decide. But
Okay, and
you
you can
always have
nominate
the right.
someone.
Yeah.
So you nominate someone to have access on your behalf and you give them permissions on your behalf. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. We've got quite a few questions and comments, and I know that we've only really scratched the surface of this conversation. And next month is April. And on April the 25th, there's a DNA day. So maybe people watching at home would be interested. You've got a month to have a look and think about the kind of information we've given you. Perhaps apply to get your DNA researched. So just to let you know that date's coming up. But I'm wondering if you want to share a last message, Jemima, to anyone watching who might be thinking of doing this research into their family tree.
Well, I would say to everyone, pick the company you want to go to for your DNA test, but get it done. Have a wee look and see which one you think suits you. But when you get your results of your DNA, make sure that you do your paperwork and make sure that the website and Ancestry, once you're starting to do your research, that you're matching that up. Also, when you have to alert your tree who you are, particularly with your DNA, and as I said before, connect to that other person and find out where you link. So when you click in your own name, you will see all of your matches, and it's your own research and your own paperwork of your ancestors that will confirm which part of the family they're from and at which level they are. I mean, when you get to your 5 times great grandparents, you can get up, paperwork will get you up to there. And what you're looking for is if their paperwork, a cousin that's potentially come up, and they have the same 5th times great grandparent as you, then you know they both have done exactly the right tree. Sometimes they haven't done that, or it doesn't match. It means the information might be different. Some
Oh,
people
can
like,
you make it not public, your information then? Can you keep that
yes, absolutely.
confidential?
You can, and some people like to be private, and that can be a bit of an issue. I turn it off and on private when I'm in
Oh,
it, depending on my mood.
you can toggle between those two things, can you? So
Yes.
again, you've got choices. That's good to know. That's a useful tip. Before we close, we've just got one more question that's popped in, again from Anne, who says, if she put the information in to the website, then decided to leave, would she still be able to download the history or not?
So if you're talking about the DNA history, then yes, you can do that. Certainly. If you're talking about leaving your membership, like Ancestry and all the research you've done, then nope, you won't get that. They'll close your account. So that's why you have to make sure that you keep the account open. So even if you're doing a subscription, you can come off and on, take the subscription out and then stop it or go
But the
private. It's up
information will
to
still be there, and you need to inform the account.
Yeah, absolutely. If you decide that you don't want all of that information to be shared or anything else, you get the account closed down and then you would ask for your DNA to be removed.
Anne says, thank you very much for that clarification. Okay, well, we've actually been talking for an hour. So I hope the audience has enjoyed our session this evening, and I hope they've got a little bit more information about doing DNA research, and I hope that's given them some food for thought. And perhaps some people might be thinking about, Easter presents, or just buying one for yourself, or a
Definitely
birthday
worth it.
present for someone. And yeah, it would be interesting to see what results people get. Thank you very much for your time with us, Jemima.
Very
Hope
welcome,
you've
Avril.
enjoyed tonight. And remember, April the 25th is DNA Day. So see how you get on towards that date. Thanks so much for coming, Jemima.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.